This is Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details. Here are your hosts, Joe, Matt, and Chris.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Between the Uprights. I am here with Chris. My name is Matt. And just real quick before we get into all this Week 12 NFL discussion, be sure to subscribe to the channel for us. We are just starting this thing up here at Between the Uprights. We love football. We love the NFL. And if you're seeing this, you probably do too. So if you like what you see, hitting that subscribe button would be extremely clutch for us. We would greatly appreciate it. And thank you in advance. Now, Chris, we got to talk some Saquon Barkley because good Lord, this dude is going crazy. 255 rushing yards, 302 yards from scrimmage, 2 touchdowns, both 70-plus yard runs, leading the Eagles to another win and now a 9-2 record on the season. And he now leads the league in rushing with 1,392 yards, rush yards per game at 126.5, yards per carry at 6.2. He's tied for 4th in rushing touchdowns, 2nd in 20-plus yard rushes, and also leads the league in attempts at 223. So they are giving this man the damn ball, Chris, and it is paying dividends with all of those numbers and how the Eagles are performing as a team. Chris, I got to ask, is Saquon Barkley the MVP of the NFL right now?
If we're talking right now, yes. And if we're talking about if he continues in the degree that he has been, yes, yes, and yes. And we just talked about I don't normally jump on trains very quickly. I do not. I'm not one of those people. However, when you start going back and you start looking at history, I'm a big fan of history. I like looking how things were to be able to find out where we are now. That is just the way of life, right? So I'm 100% feeling that he should be in the MVP conversation. He should be in the Offensive Player of the Year conversation. And my biggest thing is I already know that most people are going to look at it in the coming weeks because a lot of people, just like we were just talking about, they love being first. So there's going to be a lot of conversation about Adrian Peterson in 2012 and him getting the MVP and what he was able to do that year. But what I want more people to pay attention to and listen to that I don't think a lot of people are, because I haven't heard it, and I'm not even trying to be first, but I have not heard too many people talk about this particular setup. And I wonder as to why and why I'm so big right now on Saquon Barkley and feeling like he should be the number one running in both without question. And if he does what I think he's about to do, he has every fucking reason to be in both and should be at the top in both. So we're talking about, let's think 40 years ago. Half of us were not here, weren't even being talked about. 40 years ago, in 1984, there was a particular running back from the Rams in Eric Dickerson who set the record for 2,105 yards. 2105 is what he got in 1984, and not a single person, not a single running back, including Adrian Peterson, who won the MVP, Mr. Going Live in Derrick Henry right now, who's also going off, has also in his career has not broken this record. This record has been standing since 1984. It is crazy. 2024 and has not been broken. It's not been touched. So if you start looking at what he could possibly do if he go. So if we're just saying, hey, let's just say he's doing his total yards average per game going forward the next six games. He's easily gonna hit a 2,500 mark easily. If you tell me at the end of this season this man is at 2,500 yards, there is no way you can't give this man both of those wars. There's no way. You can't do it. It's never happened. And we've had, you can't tell me over the last 40 years the type of running backs that we've had in the NFL that have still been unable, and the disrespect that Saquon has seen these last several years. If you're telling me at the end of the season that you don't think he deserves it, it is one of two things. You are either a really salty Giants fan who cannot bear seeing what he is doing, or you do not watch football. You don't watch it. I don't even care if you're just playing fantasy. If you don't watch it, or you're just a salty Giants fan, that is the only way you look at this theory and say it's not possible. unless Derrick Henry decides to take that over. But as of right now, I think Saquon has to be the number one in both shots. Has to be.
Yes, and I definitely agree that he should be the number one candidate for MVP, and I think he is the number one candidate for Offensive Player of the Year, no doubt. But I'm here to tell you, Chris, you're going to be disappointed at the end of the year. They're not going to give the MVP to Saquon Barkley. They're just not going to do it. The NFL does not give MVPs to non-quarterbacks anymore. It just doesn't happen. And you can say whether that's right or not. You know, there's arguments on both sides. Obviously, the quarterback is the most valuable position just in sports, probably, and obviously in football. But they just don't give it to running backs anymore. You mentioned Adrian Peterson in 2012. You want to know what the narrative when Adrian Peterson got that MVP in 2012 was? Should have gave it to Peyton Manning. Why didn't they give it to Peyton Manning? Peyton Manning threw for 38 touchdowns, 5,000 yards. You didn't give it to Peyton Manning. It's like, okay, we don't want to make that mistake again. We have to give it to the quarterbacks, right? We see Lamar Jackson's season last year, numbers-wise, not a super special season, right? He didn't have a crazy season number-wise, but guess what? He's the best quarterback on the best team. So you know who gets the MVP? The best quarterback on the best team. That's why I think it's going to be Josh Allen who ends up getting it, because he's going to be the best quarterback and probably on either the best or the second best team. Mahomes might be the best team, but his numbers are just not even close to MVP worthy this year, so you can't give it to him. And then the next best would be Josh Allen. So I think Josh Allen's going to end up eventually getting it. But to your point, Chris, Saquon Barkley is actually the MVP of the NFL this season, because you look at what the Eagles were last year, how they finished the year last year. Saquon Barkley has completely changed that franchise. Let me just give you some stats, just comparing him to the running back they had last year. The running back the Eagles had last year was DeAndre Swift, okay, who's having a nice year in Chicago too. DeAndre Swift's a good player, okay. I think he's gotten a kind of an unfair shake in Detroit and then in Philadelphia, and he's having a nice year here in Chicago this year. But last year, DeAndre Swift had a solid year. He was over 1,000 yards, 1,049 yards, and 5 touchdowns in 16 games. Saquon Barkley in 4 less games has 350 more rushing yards and 5 more touchdowns. He's averaging 1.5 yards more per carry and 60 yards more per game. And he also already has more receiving yards and touchdowns than Swift did last year with 4 more yards per catch. So he's that much better than a good running back. Saquon Barkley is easily, like, you can't even debate it. It's him and Derrick Henry as the 2 best running backs in the NFL, and it's not even close. And by the way, just another separate tangent. Maybe we should start paying veteran running backs, because Derrick Henry goes to the Ravens, massive success. Saquon Barkley goes to the Eagles, massive success. Joe Mixon goes to the Texans, massive success. We got Aaron Jones on the Vikings, massive success. I'm missing one more, but there's another veteran running back. Tony Pollard went to the Titans. He's been really good for the Titans as well. So maybe we should start paying these running backs, because they're going other places and they're doing really well. And all those teams I just mentioned, Ravens, Texans, Packers, and obviously the Eagles, are much better than they were last season. So again, maybe we should start paying these veteran running backs, because they're doing wonders for their teams. But Saquon Barkley definitely should be the MVP of the NFL this year, because first of all, I don't believe in his head coach. I don't know about you. I'm not a big Nick Sirianni guy with his bald shaven head ass. I don't trust him as far as I could throw him. He's a pretty big dude, so I can't throw him very far. But I don't think he's a very good head coach. He's just not. Like, you see how he operates. Like, he's like how he's screaming at the fans, like, and shaving his head. Like, I don't trust that guy to run my organization. And Saquon Barkley has gotten him to 9-2. And you see Jalen Hurts' numbers last year without Saquon Barkley weren't too good. He had an 89 passer rating. Now with Saquon in there, the boxes are a little bit heavier, giving him more opportunities to throw. Passer ratings up at 102. So the Saquon Barkley effect for that offense is real. And then too, we see it on Sunday night. This dude can hit. This dude is the ultimate home run hitter. 2 70-yard touchdowns in one game is crazy. So I do think Saquon Barkley right now should be the MVP of the NFL. The problem is, you look at the betting odds, he's like third or fourth in the betting odds. And he's doing unbelievable things, and they still got 3 quarterbacks ahead of him. So they got Jared Goff ahead of him. And listen, I'm a Jared Goff guy. I like Jared Goff. He's a good quarterback. But when you look at in terms of value on each team, who brings the most value to their teams, Saquon Barkley's miles ahead of Jared Goff. So I think they're gonna give it to one of these quarterbacks here on one of the good teams, whether it's Josh Allen, who I think personally is gonna end up getting it, or whether it's Lamar, or whether it's Jared Goff. I think one of those guys is gonna end up getting the MVP, because the running back is not a MVP award. It's the offensive player of the year. And we talked about this pre-show, Chris. The offensive player of the year is like the Cy Young in baseball, right? They have a specific award for the players or for the pitchers, right? It's the Cy Young award. For the NFL, the Offensive Player of the Year goes to the best non-quarterback, right? And then the MVP goes to the quarterback, and the MVP for MLB goes to the position players, right? It's the same exact thing. That's how they've made it. They haven't officially came out and said that, but that's how it is. So I don't see Saquon Barkley getting the MVP, even though I think he is the actual MVP, which is unfortunate.
I agree. I definitely agree. I mean, it's hard not to look at it like that and try to kind of see the overall picture of it, and hope that they do better than what has been done. Because you can't tell me that there haven't been a couple MVPs that were given out. It's like, all right, like there's probably several other players that probably deserve that over a QB, right? But we know that at least for sure in the last 10 years, it's all been quarterbacks. All been last 10 years from what I was able to see. Of course, you had Aaron Rodgers was on there a couple times, which I still personally don't feel that there were several of them that he really should have had, to be honest.
Sure.
I'm not a big Aaron Rodgers fan, so people are
Me
going to hate
neither.
that. I don't care.
Neither are Jets fans at this point.
I hope they shouldn't be. They should.
Yeah.
I never understood it from we talked about it prior to the season starting. I didn't understand the obsession with it. I don't feel like he's anywhere near where Brady was, and why they tried to put
Not
him
even
in
close.
position. I am baffled. But anyways, neither here nor there. But so out of 10 years, the last MVP, it's all been quarterbacks. I will agree with Josh Allen. I am huge on Josh Allen right now, basically because it's an MVP type of award. That means that you are basically the most critical part to your team, to your organization at this exact moment or in this exact year. And I feel like Josh Allen has done that given what has taken place and what he has been able to overcome. He's had, I can't tell how many wide receivers have been hurt. His offensive line isn't always working well. His defense is kind of up and down. They've had a ton of people either injured or out on the defense, or people that left during free agency. So there's just been so many changes. And it was so funny to see towards, at the, not the end of the year, but prior to the year starting, and you start talking like right before training camp, how much hate was coming towards Josh Allen and what they expected him to drop. They didn't expect him to do well. And then what he's been able to do since then is only a testament to him. And again, we go back to when we talked about Purdy. There is a huge difference. When the game is on the line, as a quarterback, the guy that you are paying as high as you are paying is the guy that you want to have the most faith in. Like, I have no questions at all. When we need you to do something, you're going to get it done. I don't have to worry about it. That's a Josh Allen. He's going to put the ball in his hand. He's going to take care of business, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. You don't get that from Purdy. Purdy has to have everything kind of around him working properly in order for that to happen. If Josh Allen has to hit some people in the face and get some yards, he's going to hit some people in the face and he's going to get some yards. Period. Purdy's not going to do that. So there's a big difference there. And that's why, like, if someone else does get it, which I truly will go back to, I feel like Saquon has done, if he does what I really feel like he is going to do, if he continues on the same path he has been on, it should be hard as hell for anybody to not give him both of those awards. He absolutely deserves it. This is something that has never been done, has not been done in the last 40 years, which most of us weren't even alive when this took place. But if it's not him, then yes, it has to be Josh Allen. It has to be. But if we're going directly to who deserves it, Saquon Barkley, hands down, and there is nobody that can convince me otherwise at this exact moment in time.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.